Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a character guide on Reno. So, Reno's FR just dropped. I'm sure a lot of you are looking forward to this guide. Reno is actually like super easy to play. Like his kit is fairly simple in what it does. You just have to, really the big thing with him is understanding his FR, setting up the proper team comps for it and all that. So, for those of you not familiar with Reno, he's basically a debuff focused character that's really good at like shutting down the enemies, right? So, we'll go ahead in this video. We're going to look at his artifacts, his spheres. I'll do a showcase on them. But let's go ahead and start with his call effect. Because now I am adding that to these character guides, right? So Reno's call actually is a really good one that you can use, right? So with this call, you're either going to get Electroprod or you're going to get Pyramid. Electroprod is going to do a little bit of thunder damage, but the big thing you get from this is the numb debuff. Basically what the numb debuff does is when an enemy attacks, and I think it's got to be a physical attack. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so if the enemy uses a physical attack, they get delayed 2 turns after using a physical attack. So it's a little situational in that you don't want to use it against a magic attacking enemy, mainly against a physical attacking enemy. But that 2-turn delay could come in use, right? And then the Pyramid, it's going to dispel 1 buff off the enemy, which is good. Like, so it's just like an on-demand dispel if like there's an enemy that puts up a really obnoxious buff. Especially if they put up like a big regen buff or something, those can get really annoying. So it can dispel 1 buff from all targets, and then they get the Pyramid debuff. Now the Pyramid debuff is really good. Basically it makes it so if the enemies try to do like HP damage to you, or they try to put a debuff on you, that it just can't do that. And then basically the way Pyramid works is it doesn't have a turn limit to it. It's just if Pyramid stops the enemy from doing one of those things, then it falls off. So you basically get like a one-shot use of it, right? It also increases the amount of brave damage and HP damage, or sorry, brave damage the enemies take, and then it'll reduce HP and brave damage to 0, and they can inflict debuffs on you, right? And so once one of those things triggers, then it will fall off. I would say Raigen's call is a little bit better, because I believe his you get 2 turns of basically can't take HP damage, but this is also a good one, and you get the numb debuff on the other one. So it's a very good defensive type of call, right? Okay, so let's go and hop back into Reno here. Let me go ahead and take this call back off. We'll just throw something on there. All right, so now on Reno, for his artifacts, you just want to go attack 108 and his C50. So attack 108, and then a C50 is going to give max brave and attack, right? So that's a pretty standard type of setup. Otherwise, if you can't do that, just get 3 attack 108s on there, and then the other one can be anything. Let's say attack 108, max brave 330 is probably your next best bet. But as long as you get the attack 108s, that's the big thing. You want him to do damage. He actually can do pretty decent damage, so give him those attack buffs, right? So then let's go ahead and we're going to look at his spheres. So on spheres, you have a few options. So the A slot, it's kind of the typical where you want brave damage or you want attack, or Reno does physical attack, so it can be any of those types of spheres, right? So I think Raigen has a really fat physical attack sphere if you want like a lot of physical attack. I just happen to have X-Death, and since Reno does debuffs, this one kind of fits well. So it just raises his attack when there's a debuff enemy. So if you're someone that's lacking like A spheres that buff attack, you can actually refine X-Death right now. So you could refine up a bunch of these X-Deaths, and at least you've got something that's very, like this is one of the easier to activate spheres, because most team comps, somewhere from some character, you're inflicting a debuff. And as long as the enemies have 1 debuff, like you're going to get this attack buff. So I think X-Death is just a decent one. Once again, when you have a character like this that's so flexible, just look at what A spheres you have, find brave damage, attack, or physical attack, toss it on him, you're good to go, right? In the C slot, he's a little bit harder because a lot of the C slot spheres want healing, and he doesn't inherently heal, right? So what you can do is, he does have a little bit of buffing in his kit now. He didn't always buff as much, but he does have a little bit of buffing. So you could do some C slots that buff. So like Alphanod is one that I usually recommend. That's a pretty good generic like attack up one. Or you could do like I did. I actually gave him Seador. So this will actually give him a little bit of healing utility. So there's just a little bit of that healing coming into play. So I think something like that could be fun as well. So the C slot I would say is probably not his most important one. But you could look. I think Porm and Rosa also give like HP regen, so if you want some type of healing with them, you could go with one of those healing spheres. Otherwise, find an Alphanod or something like that where you get a little bit of attack, right? And then the E slot, so like Yuffie, Emperor, stuff like that, those are your standard like attack up ones, so you could go ahead and go for that. Oron's actually got a pretty interesting one. Let me go to Oron's here. Oron's is so actually like His own is actually interesting also, and I actually have the full one, so I could put this on. So whenever he breaks, lowers all enemies' physical attack by 15%. Now, the reason why I'm not going to put this one on Reno is because I'm going to be running Reno, and you'll find out when I talk about his force, but you're going to want to run him in like team comps with counters. And what's going to happen is these counter-attacking units are typically going to be stealing breaks all the time. So it's going to be hard for Reno to get breaks because whenever you have like these off-turn damage dealers, they typically will steal the breaks. So I probably actually wouldn't recommend a sphere like this where like Reno himself has to break, because those might get stolen from him if you're running the team comps for his FR, right? So just keep your eye on that. But let's look at Oran. Oran's got a pretty darn good one. Oh, I already passed him. Hold up. Oran's right here, and I do have the full one. I am kind of tempted to put this one on, but this is like a really good one, so I might want to put this on like a mainline damage dealer. But if you inflict a debuff, melee attack by 15%. So 15% is pretty much the fattest percent buff you're going to get in any category. So if you absolutely love Reno and you want to put a big fat, like if you put this on the E slot and you put Raijin on the A slot, you're getting 30% physical attack. So you could go really crazy on the physical attack if you want to go really big there. So anyways, those are kind of the spheres or types of spheres I'd recommend on Reno. Let's hop in, and I'm actually going to demo this on the new Dare to Defy, because the bosses are built for Reno. So I want bosses that are going to be aggressive, do physical attacks and all that, so I can kind of show you how he's going to operate in there. So what I'm doing is, you want to bring Reno with the tank. Now, Edge is like one of the tanks I do have left on Dare to Defy, so Edge might end up in my final run. Just so you guys know, this isn't actually my Dare to Defy run. I'm just using the stage to showcase. I'll go back in and do like a legit run later. I'm not sure if I'll use the same team comp or something else. But I'm going to do Charlotta as a force charger just so I can get his force gauge up and show you how that works. But when I do my actual Dare to Defy run, I'll probably just run like 2 counter units and Reno and just take my force gauge up slowly over time and let the fight kind of go that way. But for the showcase, I like to be able to power into that force quickly. So let's go ahead and hop in. And we'll get going there, okay? All right, so with Reno, there isn't like a set like order of attacks that you need to do. So I'll kind of just go through all the attacks and explain what they do. And then based on the fight, you just use whichever ones you want, right? So you can see here, he doesn't start off with his EX. He doesn't start off with any free turns or anything like that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys actually Electro Prod right away, because this is actually a button you usually don't want to press when you're doing the FR. So I'm going to show this off early so that you guys can kind of see what it does, and then hopefully the effects of it will fall off by the time I get to the force. So let's go ahead and we'll just Electro Prod this helicopter over here. We'll let that go, and you can see it does do some splash damage. It does do AoE Brave Shave as well, so it's a good AoE attack. So if you need AoE, you can do it. But the big thing is, the reason why you don't want to do it, right? It puts a debuff called Numb. So like, his kit's very simple. It's like, just does that big AoE attack, lightning damage. He does thunder damage, by the way, and he does enchant Imperil in his kit, and I'll talk about where that comes from. But it puts a Numb debuff, and this is the one I was talking about that came from the call. So what the Numb debuff does, it does physical attack and defense minus 40%, which is awesome. But anytime the enemies do a physical attack, they're going to delay 2 turns. Now this is bad because Reno's force time, you want the enemies to take turns. So the 15 CP, if you're actually running like the force time, you actually don't want to use that if you're running like a counter tank composition. Okay. So let's go ahead here with Edge, and we're going to open with Edge's LD. We kind of want to get Edge's counters going here, because he's going to be kind of my main unit that I'm demoing the counter mechanic with. And then what I'm going to do is Charlotta. I'm going to start force charging quite a bit here. I won't go all the way through because I do want Reno just to take some regular turns so I can show off the rest of his kit. But then we'll go into FR at some point here. But let's just get a few. I'll probably charge up to her first EX and then use Charlotta's first EX, and I'll probably just dump her LD. Then I'll have her like chuck staffs when I want to use them. And then those chuck staffs will be handy during force time to dump a lot of damage with high percentages, right? So we'll go ahead and do the EX here. That'll be a free instant move, help charge the gauge up. Alright, so you can see just one round of Charlotta's 15 CP up to the EX. We're already like 50% charged basically. So let's go ahead and pop the LD here. Actually, no, I want her burst effect up because I want to get that fat battery going. So let's get our burst effect up. And then next turn, what I'll do is I might end up charging most of the way, and then I'll end with the LD, and then she'll have her chuck staff. But we're just kind of getting some stuff set up here. I think Charlotta can work well in this comp because then she can be like battering the counter tank and like they're going to get a lot of damage off. But I think you're going to get more damage probably out of having 2 counter characters going. We'll see though. It takes some experimenting, right? So now with Edge, Edge works great in this fight because it's a lot of physical damage and he can just put his smoke screen up, right? So we can just do smoke and he's just going to like dodge everything. So, you know, this I think Edge is going to be a really good shout on this fight. I think he's going to perform really well here with Reno. So I think he's what I'm going to use because I already used Auron on a different Dare to Defy. So I might use Auron, like I might do like Auron, Edge, and Reno on like my normal Shinryu. And then on this one, I'll either use like Edge and a Force Charger or Edge and a Support or Edge and, you know, I could try like, I was thinking of actually trying Gao. He's only C80. But he counters and heals, so it still might be enough. Like, he just might be countering enough, it might be worth it, right? All right, let's go ahead and show off Reno's 35. So this is called Electric Dance, and literally very simple. Just does a, I think it's a single target attack with Splash. Yeah, or no, it's no Splash, just complete single target lightning attack, and then it just puts a buff on Reno. So the buff basically just gives him attack and max brave and then lightning enchant. So that's basically, like, very simple, right? But that's going to be kind of like your filler button. If you don't know how to press... press the 35, don't press the 15 if you want to like get more turns to counter, because you don't want to push the enemies back. So I know some people have kind of criticized Reno, saying, well, like, his 15 CP is anti-synergy with his kit, like, Reno's not good. But the thing is you just don't need to press that button, and it doesn't really hurt him. Like, just don't press the 15, and you're fine, and he still has plenty enough skill uses, because if you're using the FR properly with like the counter tank strategy, like you're going to get through the fight just fine without pressing that button. And that's kind of nice. You still have that button in a pinch if for some reason you do need to push the enemies back, or maybe you're not in a period where you're not doing the force time and you do want to push them back, then you can actually use it, right? So Charlotta, let's go ahead and get her LD up. And then what we'll do with Reno is I'll just take one more normal turn with him, and then we'll probably force charge the rest of the way and get his force going. And then I can kind of explain how that all works. But you saw the enemy there got delayed after the physical attack, right? So that's what his other debuff is doing. And actually, I should see. Yeah, and then he got pushed back again, right? I kind of want that to fall off. I don't remember how many turns. So it's 4 turns of numb. So, like, that lasts a while. It's actually a pretty darn good debuff. Oh, yeah. Look, they got 5 turns of numb. So yeah, they're gonna have that. So we might not see the full effectiveness just because I put that on right away. But that's why you don't want to put that on, right? Because the enemies are gonna keep getting pushed back. Yeah, this guy's got 5. They both have 5 turns of numb. So that's basically just never going away. So that's fine. Whatever. I just wanted to show you the attack in the video. I guess if I was smart, I could have just showed it to you after the force, but that's okay. So with Edge here, we'll just go ahead and maybe shock him. That's fine. I don't think he had anything that really needed to be refreshed there. And then Reno, let's go ahead and show the LD. So the LD is good. So let's pop Pyramid. This is a very good... it's got a lot in this Pyramid debuff, right? And you can see pretty decent damage there. So on the Pyramid debuff, the big thing is so I told you when you use the call, it dispels 1 buff from the enemies. But the actual LD, if you have Reno in the party, it dispels 4 buffs. So that's really good because dispellers are pretty rare in this game. So Reno has a lot of utility in that, right? And then it puts the Pyramid debuff on. So the Pyramid debuff is going to do Brave damage up to the enemy, so you're going to do more Brave damage. And then, once again, any Brave or HP damage they deal will be reduced to 0, and they can't inflict debuffs. And then, once again, if they try to Brave or HP damage you, or they try to inflict a debuff, then the Pyramid will fall off, right? So it's like, you can see there's no turn count on it, right? Like you've got it up here. You can see Pyramid, no turn count. It basically will stay up there. Once again, you can see that it's canceled after one of the above effects is triggered, right? So if the Brave damage or HP damage becomes 0, or he tries to inflict a debuff, then the Pyramid will fall off. But very, very cool debuff that comes from that. So the LD, you know, it doesn't give him any buffs, so you don't have to worry about, like, upkeeping it or whatever. Literally, think of the LD as just, you press the button when you want that Pyramid on, and you just have it, right? So it's kind of a unique LD that way, because most characters, at some point, it's like you need to upkeep a buff. But with him, you don't. So that is kind of cool that you don't really have to worry about or stress about pressing that LD button, right? All right, so Charlotta, let's go ahead and finish charging up here, which we're basically about there, right? We'll go ahead and do her EX, and then we'll maybe chuck the staff. And then her burst effect should still have plenty of turns on it. And then we're going to go in the Reno's force time here. And then the enemies are going to get some turns right after, right? All right, so let's go ahead and chuck that staff out. Do some pretty good damage there. Okay, Edge. Let's just do... Yeah, sure, let's do Blitz Mirage. That sounds good. Okay. Nice. Alright, so Reno's going to come up. So I'm going to explain this FR before I actually go in and press it. So it's going to do a big AoE attack. Okay, just like a typical force. This also will apply Pyramid to the enemy, so it's another way to put Pyramid on, which is pretty cool. And then the big thing with this is the HP damage up conditions, right? So if the attacking character uses thunder damage, it's 20% up. So if you do run other characters that can do thunder damage, or if you can enchant the party for thunder, this is the other reason that Edge is kind of synergizing well. It's because Edge also has thunder damage. So on the turns Edge actually takes, you can do thunder damage and get 20%. But the big thing is the other conditions. So if the enemy takes a turn, it goes up 20%. And if the enemy uses a physical attack, it goes up 30%. So what happens is in a fight like this, every time the enemy attacks, the gauge goes up 50%. And the thing that's unique about this, unlike other force effects, is it's going up on enemy turn. So the force gauge won't actually go down during enemy turns. So if you are running a party that's very slow, or the enemy's very fast and aggressive and takes a lot of turns, you can rack that gauge up. Technically, there's like no limit to how high it can go. It's just a matter of how many turns the enemy gets, right? So that's very, very cool. I actually would be tempted to run the Shinryu with only 2 characters in my party to give the enemies more turns. Like, if you ran just Reno in a tank, that's probably a pretty easy team comp to win with, depending on how the fight acts. But then, with less characters in your party, the enemy's just going to get more turns, right? So, just so you guys know, they do have the numb debuff on, so they are going to be pushing themselves back. But normally, this would be more effective. But if anything, this can be a way to show you guys why you don't press the 15 and you don't put the numb on, because you're going to see those enemies are going to keep pushing themselves back, and we don't want that, actually. So, let's go ahead. Sure, we'll put the AA on. The AA, I do believe, extends the buff turns, which is kind of nice, and then put some generic buffs on, right? So it can extend like how long your buffs are lasting, so if you need to do that in a pinch, you can do that. So let's go ahead and pop the FR. Who's his partner? I didn't even look at who his partner is. Oh, Quistis. That's a cool partnership. Sure. We'll take that. So we'll look at the damage here. Okay, wow, yeah, a mil AoE. That's pretty good damage. All right, so now enemies will take turns. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so here's a physical attack. Edge is going to dodge. Okay, and he delayed himself, but normally that wouldn't happen within him. But look at that, 50% on the enemy's turn. And then Edge is now countering and getting the benefit of that buff. And he's attacking after it goes up. Right? So you can see how this is busted. Okay, watch. Attack Edge. We're going to get 50%. Look at our force gauge. Still at 10. Right? Like, we've already done 100% to the force gauge without using a force turn. Like, this is what is exciting about Reno. This is why I did tickets and gems to get this guy. That alone is insane. Now's the part that stinks, because the enemy's delayed, so now I got to take 3 of my own turns, right? And so now Charlotta's not going to raise the gauge at all because she's not thunder damage. Yeah, we got 5%. Edge can do thunder damage, so I could go and shock him here, and we're at least going to get 20% on this. Okay, so we got 20. Okay, and then Reno will go, and then we let the enemies go. So, dude, if there's like even like a 3-person fight and they're really aggressive, like, you can see how this can get just so nasty. Oh, so let's use the EX. We have to explain this. We haven't done that yet. So the EX is called EM Triple Shot. It's just going to do a big AoE attack, and it's going to put an EX Triple Shot debuff. So it's going to put a debuff, which is the name of the attack, and it's just going to do attack and defense down, and then this is going to imperil them to lightning. So it's a very simple thing, but a good button to press because it should do pretty decent damage here. Let's see how much his EX does. Well, I guess we can't really take this realistically, yeah, because we have the force gauge up, right? So it's like, oh, 1.2 mil AoE, but that's not normal. All right, here comes another physical attack. Yeah, Edge is going to be working great for this Shinryu fight, like ridiculously good. And then big fat counters, right? Gauge just going up like crazy. Edge gets another turn. Sure, we'll just use smoke maybe. Okay, and we got 20% up for the lightning damage. All right, let's watch the enemies take turns again. Okay, physical damage, 50%. Oh, and we got this. Okay, nice. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Yeah, yeah. All right, yep, there's the 50% perfect. Yeah, this is good. And then, yeah, you just get all the counter damage. Like, it's crazy. And the thing that's exciting is I think Gladio's coming up on his upgrade soon. And Gladio's going to be a beast with Reno. Like, an absolute beast, right? So that's basically, I mean, we'll go through this force time, but look, we're up to 395. We got 6 turns left. And once again, this isn't nearly as efficient as it could be because the enemies still have numb on them and they're delaying themselves, right? So you guys just have to use your imaginations. If you got Reno, try this out. Like, dude, just during this showcase, I've already got them down to, like, 69%. Like, yeah, I think this is going to be fun. I haven't looked at, like, what their thresholds and stuff do, but I might actually, like, right after this, I might go in and just try to record this and see, like, the actual fight and try to get it done, right? So now, with Reno, we kind of have a filler turn, so I could reapply Pyramid if I want to. I could just, once again, you wouldn't want to press Electroprod, so I could just do Electric Dance here, right? Just do an attack, something as a filler. You know, 2.8 mil, pretty good with the force time going, right? Edge, sure, let's Blitz Mirage, that's fine. Okay. And then, you know, Edge, that's thunder damage, 20%. And then enemy will take a turn. Yep, 50%, 500 we're up to. So, you know, this setup, we're not getting as high as, like, Cam, but I think we can get as high as Cam, if not exceed it. Once again, if they don't have the num debuff on, and we're maybe doing, instead of Charlotta, like just another big, slow tank character, right? So Charlotta, she's out of Chucks. We'll just go ahead and Chuck anyways. We'll Chuck the weak staff. Okay, and then once again, enemy taking turn. Get 50% here. Shadow's just making a miss. Or not Shadow, Edge. Me getting my ninjas mixed up. Yeah, this is cool, though, for like the counter tank strategy. Loving this. Alright, so we got 2 turns left. So, unfortunately, now, the enemies aren't going to get another turn. So, I'm just going to, like, since I got the percentage up, I'm just going to do some big fat attacks. So, let's do LD. And then Edge, I'll probably use his LD. We'll try to get the biggest damaging attacks we can do here to finish off. And then we'll do this Inferno here. And there you go. So, there's Reno. Very, very fun character. So, you know, you can decide after watching this if this is the type of character you want. If you don't have any tanks, Reno is not going to give you as much value. But if you're looking ahead and you know you're going to get someone like Gladio, it definitely can be worth it, right? So anyways, guys, let me know what you think of Reno. Hopefully your polls went well. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.